Hi to everyone. Warm welcome to the wide audience who follow us on social media right now or have registered and directly participate on today's panel discussion. Today is 24th of June and we start the fourth EENCE club entitled Citizenship Education for SDG number 13, Climate Action. The panel discussion will be about ecosystems and environmental sustainability. Today, we will hear genuine experience from Sweden, from Russia, and from Moldova. EENCE Club project aims at promotion of democratic development and citizenship education through creation of space for public debates and experience sharing. All EENCE Club's themes focused on sustainable development goals of UN. Together with the great panelists coming from Sweden, Moldova, and Russia, we will dive into the environmental sustainability, which is the responsibility to conserve natural resources and protect global ecosystem to support health and well-being, as well as to support it now and in the future. In Agenda of 2030, we have sustainability and we have to make up it from three pillars. It is the economy, society, and the environment. These principles are also informally used as a profit, people, and the planet. EENCE Club is organized by EENCE in the framework of Citizenship Education Week, entitled The Art of Living Online. And the project itself is supported by Federal Agency for Civic Education using the funds that are coming from Federal Foreign Office. Some technical announcement, dear audience. The panel discussion will last exactly 1 hour, but we will have 30 minutes for Q&A session. So if you have any question now or during the process, please feel free to drop your questions in a comment box if you follow us on social media, or drop your questions in a chat box directly at Zoom. If your question is addressed to a specific panelist, please mention it in your question and feel free to introduce yourself by addressing a question, country, name, surname, organization, if you present any organization. The panel discussion, including the Q&A session, is moderated by Viorica Olaru Chemertan. Viorica is a PhD. She presents both Sweden and Moldova. She is a member of EENCE. She is a coordinator and manager with a demonstrated history of working in international affairs of SDGs fostering, such as UN agencies, UNDP and IOM, as well as green industry, wind power company, Nordex Group. Shortly about the organizer of this project, EENCE Club, it's Eastern European Network for Citizenship Education, which history goes back to 2015. The mission of the network is to have a tangible contribution to the sustainable development of the civil society in the Eastern Partnership region and Russia through widening the citizenship education sphere and developing the capacity of the institutions and experts in the field. So if you are interested to become a member organization or an individual expert of the network, feel free to send the memorandum, and please feel free to check all details at eence.eu. This year will be full of different competitions, activities within the Citizenship Education Week and above. So again, the details about the upcoming EENCE clubs and related activities you can see at www.eence.eu. Today's panel discussion is going to be recorded, and as you see, it is live streamed as in the social media platform. My name is Narine Teknejan. I'm the co-founder and trainer at Youth Power NGO, also the member of EENCE Coordination Council, the leader at EENCE Working Group Women in Local Communities, and the project manager at EENCE Club on behalf of EENCE Coordination Council. I wish us a productive, useful, and pleasant panel discussion and leave a floor to the amazing moderator, Viorica.
Thank you very much, dear Narine. Hello from sunny Uppsala, Sweden, and welcome to everybody to this important and useful digital event. I'm very happy to moderate it and to collaborate with such wonderful teammates and speakers alongside with interested public. So together we are going to co-create and design an insightful panel discussion on ecosystems and environmental sustainability. Climate change is a global challenge that affects everyone and everywhere. Within the UN Global Agenda 2030, sustainability is made up of 3 pillars: the economy, society, and the environment. And these 3 principles are also informally used as profit, people, and planet. More than that, I want to highlight that many experts speak about 5 Ps when it comes to the SDGs: people, planet, prosperity, peace, and partnership. So environmental sustainability is the responsibility to conserve natural resources and to protect global ecosystems to support health and well-being now and in the future. Sustainable Development Goal 13 is about climate action, and the official wording is to take urgent action to combat climate change and its impacts. So there is a target 13.3 that explicitly refers to improve education, awareness raising, and human and institutional capacity on climate change mitigation, adaptation, impact reduction, and early warning. But besides SDG 13, there are much more SDGs and targets that tackle environmental sustainability. And it is a cross-cutting subject in the Sustainable Development Agenda. This is how we as humankind perceive the purpose and in a visionary manner for the Global Agenda 2030, but how you, dear participants, see the environmental sustainability. You can contribute to our poll. So I shared the link in the chat. Please follow that link and speak up your mind. We are very interested to see what does environmental sustainability mean to you. And those who are watching us on Facebook, on YouTube, or EENCE webpage, please let us in the comments to know what do you think about environmental sustainability. So the poll is a kind of tool to interact with the audience, but with our speakers, we will see what they are thinking about environmental sustainability based on a small object, a small item, and Narine was asked us to bring. And I'd like to say that personally, I took my bamboo, toothbrush that I use each day, at least twice. Well, I start my day with it, and I also end my day with it. So as well, my family members do the same with their personal bamboo toothbrush. In this way, we protect the environment and, of course, our health. It is such a small piece, but makes a big difference daily. Well, now the moment to introduce our speakers came. A warm welcome to Natalie Topperwein Blom from Sweden, from Uppsala. Natalie holds a Bachelor in Global Studies focusing on human rights, sustainable development, and gender equality. Natalie has worked with valued-based and gender equality-focused programs in a variety of countries, and she has solid experience in process management and leading workshops with interactive methods aiming for lasting change in the participants. Natalie has spoken on global conferences, held workshops in a variety of languages, and together with colleagues, she just published a paper on the importance of locally led development initiatives, and she was titled The Inspiration of the Year by Shistri Sandhi, from her ability to connect with her audience and engage others for their sustainability. Natalie is currently working with an international organization, ACT Church of Sweden, as well as a consultant for Ed Gender and Shistri Sandhi here in Sweden. Her LinkedIn profile I will share in the chat soon. So, hey, son, Natalie. Hi, Natalie. Did you bring with you an item that represents today's topic?
Yes, I have this bottle. It's a metal one, and I've had it for more than 10 years, the same bottle. And I can just imagine how many plastic bottles that is saved, and it keeps both cold and hot beverages. And I always carry it with me and can always fill it up with water or any other beverage. If I go on the train trip, for example, I can fill it with coffee or tea. And it's really easy to just always keep it with me. If it's too heavy, I could just empty it, keep the empty bottle until I need to drink again. And so for me, this is really important to just all these single-use plastics to get rid of them. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Natalie. So the second speaker, a warm welcome to Dr. Nelia Rahimova from Russia. Nelia is a sustainable development advocate and educator, as well as policy analyst. She's a founder and CEO of Open School for Sustainable Development, Open Shkola, coordinator of the Coalition for Sustainable Development of Russia, and the first civil society review on the implementation of the SDGs in Russia, as well as board member of the EU-Russia Council, member of Europe Regional Council, Teach SDGs ambassador, consultant for UN DESA, UNDP, and UNSSC. Her LinkedIn profile I will share in the chat. So, privet, Nelia. Hi, Nelia. I'm wondering, what did you bring with you?
Yeah, hello, everyone. I actually brought a cubic, Rubik cube. Oh God, I don't know how it's actually in English.
Rubik.
Yeah,
Rubik.
It's actually from UNSSC because it's if you put it together, I didn't manage it right now. You will get on one side this 5-piece. You were talking about it, and basically, and then if everything is organized properly, it will be like on each side there will be one of this 5-piece. So it's actually a really great metaphoric, I think, representations and how everything is interconnected. And it's, I don't know if they actually sell them, but yeah, it's unfortunately made of plastic, but still it's a great representation. But I also use, of course, bamboo to brushes, and I also have a bottle, which I don't know for how many years I use, and in general I try to reduce, like in any direction, plastic consumption, because yeah, I think it's really a big challenge.
Thank you, Nelia. Wonderful. So the last but not the least, a warm welcome to Valeria Schwarz from Moldova. Valeria is a co-founder and executive director at Catalyst Moldovan Food Business Incubator, and also co-founder and development director of Ecovisio. Together with her colleagues, she conceptualized and built an environmental training center in the village of Rishkova in Moldova and launched tens of capacity building programs. Currently, Valeria continues to develop Ecovisio, works internationally as a trainer for environmental and entrepreneurial education. She studied geoecology and integrated natural resource management in Germany. She goes through life with a baseline attitude of gratefulness and passion for social impact. She tries to focus her deliberations and efforts on the exigencies of the age we live in, an interplay between social justice, environmental health, and smart economic development. Her LinkedIn profile I will share soon in the chat. But salute, Valeria. Hi, Valeria. What item did you bring with you and why?
Hello, Verika. Hello, everyone. Great to see you today. I brought a hairband, a rubber hairband that for me symbolizes that our current life on the planet is stretchable. We are stretching the limits. We're stretching and stretching and stretching, but there is some point of no return. So this hairband reminds me of being careful with stretching, trying to be sustainable, stretch as much as the band can take. So then this band can actually be useful and hold our life and make it work for us on the planet, for humans and for plants and for all the animals. And so we don't waste this beautiful alive planet which we have and don't have to move to Mars. Yeah.
Nice. Thank you. So amazing interaction at the beginning of this panel. So let's see what our participants think about what is the sustainability for them. So let me see if you can see my screen. So yeah, I hope. So someone think that environmental and protection and respect, everything and care is environmental sustainability for them. Thank you for this. And actually the pool will remain active until the end of the panel. So each time you have a new insight, a new, you are catching a new sense, please go into the pool and contribute to it. And in the same time, so you have this chat box, dear participants, and you can put the questions, as Narine already mentioned, to each participant. But let's get started. And from the very beginning, I'm giving the floor to Nelia to reflect on how is climate action integrated into the Sustainable Development Agenda.
Thank you very much. I will share my screen. Yeah, I actually wanted just really openly talk about what we experience right now in our life and how we actually observe how climate change is influencing us right now already. And I wanted to start with the demonstrating actually my current discussion with my husband, because we have one child right now, and we were thinking should we have another child or not? I know that it's maybe a personal topic, but because my husband is also connected with the environmental protection and regional planning, and we are really environmentally concerned family. And for us, it was actually, and we had a really interesting discussion because we were thinking right now, we know that our child, the first one, will not see already in the end of his life Maldives, or he will experience that basically the place where we live, the forest will just disappear and it will be just steppe without any trees anymore. And it's really a question, at least for me, a really serious personal question. Do I want to have another child who will actually will probably experience shortage of water, who will have heat waves and will not be able just, be happy during the summertime, or will be exposed to series of catastrophic events permanently, or maybe there will be even an open conflict with other nations or between the region. It's really an important question because frankly speaking, I think that many people don't think about it. They don't realize actually that this is our future life, and we cannot really change much already. We can, of course, course, to try, but we still really on this limit when we will experience so many difficulties in our life, and we already start to observe it. We see what happened in Germany. I mean, it's, I think, quite well covered in different media in different countries. We've seen how devastating was the collapse, basically, of several settlements. I don't know if you followed on what is happening in Russia right now. It's also even Trans-Siberian road is blocked right now because of the flooding in Far East. We see fires in Russia, forests are on fire in different regions, and basically we don't even have capacities to cover this. And I'm not even talking about health complications that people experience during these heat waves, because it's not even a topic in many countries, because we don't see the connection. So, I mean, of course, scientifically it's recognized and it's confirmed that there is a connection between such health complications and climate change, but in wider public there is no really a rich discussion on this topic. So we actually need to realize that we already experience so many problems connected to climate change, and we are just in the beginning of this crisis. So climate emergency is actually already here, and we need to understand it. I hope that this audience actually maybe understand this, but I just want to emphasize it once again, because yes, as I mentioned, and you can see it on the slide, we will experience level of sea rising of sea level in the future. Of course, lots of strange, so to say, temperatures, which we previously didn't experience, either too high or too low, or really long periods of high temperatures and so on, which can provoke different conflicts with weapons and whatever. It's what people can do in terms of fighting when they fight for the resources. As I said already, fresh water supply can be shortened, different kind of meteorological phenomena, and of course food security is another issue. And what is also, actually, I just realized is not mentioned on this picture, which is on the slide right now, is also different kind of diseases which can be, for example, coming to us from Africa, I mean to the European continent, or even Siberia and so on and so forth, like coming with insects and so on. So it's so many effects which we already partly experience and which we will experience. And of course, it influences our development, our life, daily life. And I believe that SDGs, it's not just a global UN agenda. I actually, Narina, I always avoid to say like UN in the connections to SDGs, because for, at least in Russian, lots of people get confused because they think it's goals of the United Nations, that United Nations have to actually work on their real implementation. But I hope all know that it's not like that, that mainly it's governments, then it's of course businesses and civil society. We all need to be engaged in these processes, and UN is just a platform where these goals were confirmed by the governments. And even and we see actually at the last high-level political forum that governments are still struggling sometimes to confirm their commitments on SDGs. So this is just a simple illustration what you see right now, just to again emphasize that climate action, climate change has influenced all SDGs as I already mentioned food, health, water, and urban development, consumption, of course, biodiversity. In general, I want to remind you, if you know about such concept as planetary boundaries, which comes for us from Sweden, I mean, biodiversity and climate change are the most important and urgent things which we should take care about right now, because we are already on this tipping point when if we experience, I mean, if we basically don't change our economic activities, then there will be no way back to recover the not I don't know, beautiful forest, birds and fish and so on, but it's about our lifestyle, it's about our prosperity. So we will lose, first of all, and this is what we need to keep in mind. I mean, I also like nice birds and animals, don't get me wrong, but unfortunately, this is already not the question. And here, I just, in terms of how we proceed with our development, here are just some scenarios on this graph where you can see that current policies actually will not be able to bring us to the stable situation in terms of climate, because as you know, according to Paris Agreement, which is right now the main document which actually governments agreed to follow, that we keep the limit below 2 degrees or better 1.5 degrees, the rise of temperature, but current policies, as we can see, actually bringing us much higher. So it's really necessary that we change our behavior right now. And already in this year, the average, or last year, I mean, according to the data of this year, we already reached 1.27 degrees. So it's not much left that we actually exceed the limit. So it's really important to understand this. And you can see that here is the data from previous year, that it was 1.1 degrees. And as I said, the latest data is 1.27. So you can see how fast actually the average temperature is changing. And so what can we do about it? Of course, I'm frankly speaking is a fan of systemic change. I know that, of course, some small changes in our behavior is also make some change, but I think it's really important that we act systemically, and that governments actually take responsibility and do something. And in these terms, of course, we need to follow the way to decarbonization, when we pay more attention to reduction of fossil fuel usage, when we do more about energy efficiency, and in general, when we try to transfer our technologies from usage of fossil fuel to electricity. So, for example, development of electronic cars, it's a big contribution to the decarbonization. And of course, these actions should be done and promoted by the governments and business and big corporations, and we need to push them in this direction. This is our responsibility. Of course, we can participate in international negotiations, and this is what we also do in regional engagement civil society mechanism. I can share a link with you later. It's a platform of civil society from our region, where we come together and try to advocate within different UN events. For example, high-level political forum, which was happening just this month. We were able to organize side events and discuss these issues. We were supporting countries which were reporting on sustainable development goals this year. For example, Sweden and Azerbaijan, I could see that there were participants were reporting this year on SDG implementation. And so we also supported civil society to raise their voice, to speak about the problems in their countries, and basically ask questions to the government, like what have you done actually in last years to...
Nella,
Okay.
thank you so much. I will just stop you here because you said the very interesting, keyword, civil society, and we will look at that a little bit later. But great that you started the discussion with data, with your personal and professional insights, and with your questions, the question that, have the right.
Okay, can I quickly just show one graph, because
we will come back to you in.
I just will show later. This graph. Yeah. And I will stop here, that we talk about civil society later. I just want to show you this graph because this is actually a demonstration on how governments right now invest in green recovery after COVID, because we can see the total spending of the leading countries, then it's recovery spending, and this is how it's actually spent in terms of green recovery. I'm just trying to say that actually governments don't do enough. So this is maybe where we can contribute.
Thank you, Nella. Yeah, as I said already, great that you have such a good overview, but let's take it step by step. Now I would like to invite Natalie, because she is from Sweden and she has a huge experience in this field. And I'd like to reflect, Natalie, what do you think about this topic, sustainability in this interconnected world? Yeah, and actually what needs to be changed from your experience, from your knowledge, from your expertise, please.
Thank you. No, I think it was very interesting what Nela said, that we need a systemic change. I mean, what I brought is a water bottle. It's me. I'm doing this daily choice. You are using the bamboo toothbrush, and yes, we need those actions too. We need all the billion people on this planet doing small actions in their everyday life, but it's not going to change. Like we just heard, it's not going to change if we don't do the systemic change on a bigger level. We need companies to stop doing the water bottles that are made of plastic that ends up. We need these small decisions not to be made by, tired small children, parents, children, teenagers who every day have to be on the spot. Okay, I need to do this and this and that, because some things are really easier if they're done in a systemic way. If I don't have to stand in the store every product I'm buying and say, oh, this is plastic, this is reusable plastic, but actually have the information, have the company think. And there are so many small things that add up. I mean, you've probably seen the images of this is how many plastic bottles we use a year. This is how many one-way coffee cups they use in just New York in 1 month or 1 week or so on. And so these are decisions made, and people are not going to stop drinking coffee or being thirsty. So we need these systemic changes to be created. And we need, and it was really interesting to hear what you said, this cooperation, the SDGs. A lot of people say the UN. Yeah, they were kind of created as a platform within UN because that's our meeting room for our global issues. But the SDGs comes from all over. I mean, how they were made with interviews, focus groups all over the world for years before they were actually adopted by our governments is important to remember, which means civil society, individuals, you and me, are also responsible for these things. And we definitely need the world is interconnected. So we definitely need more of a cooperation on that level. I'm going to show a picture just to see how the interconnection we can see. So we already heard a lot about how life on Earth is not just about saving the birds or the animals so that future generations can go on vacation or safari, but it's really about our ability to eat, to drink, to breathe fresh air. And all of this has its base. And as we see here, the wedding cake I like as a really good visual of the SDGs instead of just the squares, which is like, where do I start? This is really where we start. The ground. You cannot build anything upwards if you don't have the ground. So on the bottom, we have the ecosystem, we have the planet, we have the water that is essential. I mean, without that, we have nothing. We have the animals, both animals to make our ecosystem work. They all have their place, they all have their position to make the ecosystem work. But then we also have, which sometimes people forget, the ecosystem services that is basic to our life on Earth, whether that is cleaning the air, creating through photosynthesis, all of these things that we learned in school are actually things that are close to our ability to live on this planet and not have to move to Mars, as was mentioned earlier. And so the basis for life is really these, and we can find these 4 SDGs in the bottom of that. And if we don't take care of that, if we not make sure this is working, then we cannot ensure the other part of the cake, which is the more social parts. It's the rights of each individual, the right to work, it's the right to get out of poverty, to not go hungry to bed every day, to not know if you can feed your children, if you can make sure your family and friends are safe and healthy. And that has definitely been seen in the interconnection between nature, which is number 3 on health, connected to the 4 on the lower bottom when it comes to the pandemic, because we know that somehow it came from our unsustainable relationship with nature. And then only on the top of the cake, which needs to be carried by the 2 lower parts, we have the other parts, this economy, collaboration, which is on the top. We have, this steady, we should, raise our numbers, whether that is a company, whether that is a concert, you should have more and more people. That is really on the top. And yes, that has to do with life quality, but none of those things can be possible if we don't start at the bottom. So I think this is really a good way on how to see how it's all interconnected. And also on these 3 levels, we see ourselves. It's not meant for me as an individual to do all of these 17 goals on all of the 169 sub-goals, but I do need to start where I can. So for example, goal number 7 is about energy. I cannot create solar panels because I don't have the skills, I don't have the funds to do that, but I can save energy by plugging out things, not having stuff in standby, turning off the light when I leave. And all of those levels are the same. I cannot contribute to greater innovation and infrastructure because I don't have the skills and knowledge, but I do know how to transport myself. I do know how to innovate in my field, how to share that knowledge with friends and colleagues. And so I really see that we need to think more in that way of how things are connected. And I normally, when I do a longer workshop, like the interactive part with people in the room or in the digital, I normally take the 17 goals and circle them on a certain issue. So you ask me any topic, and then we start looking. And of course, there's always 2 or 3 goals or sub-goals that are really connected. Like, okay, yeah, of course, this has to do with health or poverty elevation. But then when you go deeper and deeper and you continue to ask these questions that the 3-year-old asks, and then what, and why is it like this, you really see that all 17 goals are always involved in anything we do, because there's nothing happening in the world not affecting someone else, and therefore also working towards one direction will include either harming or living up to the SDGs.
Yeah, absolutely right. I agree 100%. And thank you for this wonderful metaphor of wedding cake. So interesting examples how we personally and what we personally can do to change something. So I'm wondering, Valeria and her amazing experience in Moldova, because she's doing a lot of activities. She's fostering actually environmental education and community engagement in Moldova. Valeria, how can you continue this topic, and which of your activities actually are most promising in terms of continuity? How can you see that Moldova is on the right way on this topic, and you personally?
Thank you, Verika. Yes, I'm happy to share a few insights from what we do. We work since 2013 in Moldova, and we have tried a bunch of different approaches. And I can say we also were naive at the beginning. We were doing some things that are maybe not sustainable, but we're learning, right? All of us gathered here are interested in making a difference, right? And I think one of the key approaches is to be self-aware, to be critical about your activities and not think, oh, you're doing something, this is fine, but to review it every time. So I will not tell you about everything we did. I chose to share with you some of the topics we were working in: energy transition, zero emission vehicles, adaptation and resilience. And maybe the key, the center of our work, is also connected to a place. We built an environmental training center in a village of Ryshkova. So today I couldn't join the conversation much earlier because we had a blackout in the village, and I live nearby, so I had to run to our training center and charge my laptop, because over there we have solar panels and we have backup energy battery, right? And there is events right now happening there. The weekends are very busy, so I cannot Zoom from there. So I had to go back to my house and use my charged battery. But basically, we have built an example of physical sustainability, and we're also using it as a place where people can learn. We had a lot of questions ourselves: how to have a sustainable lifestyle, how to change communities. And we started bringing this all together and trying to create a hub of knowledge, of learning, of exchange. And of course, you can imagine we tried it not to be just in words, but also by deeds. It's all the buildings on the premises are built out of natural materials like wood frame, and they're filled with straw and reed and have clay plastering and lime. They're energy efficient. And of course, we use passive solar principles. You can see they're built of local materials. And if any one of you ever did construction or repairs at home, maybe you know that there is a high cost to it, right? And in normal construction, metal, glass, stone, usually about 80% is spent on materials and 20% is spent on work. But in this ecological construction, it's the other way around. Materials are cheap because they're local. We went to a local lake and harvested the reed. We got clay out of a local clay carrier, but we had to pay a lot of workers to do all this by hand, right? And we chose it because this eco-construction is much better in terms of efficiency. We have very small energy costs in the winter. We heat, of course, but much less than in a stone house. And in the summer, we don't need air conditioners. Other peoples with stone houses, they're barely surviving Moldovan 35 degrees in the summer, but we don't need it. And this is an example how you can reduce CO2 emissions, but also the construction materials do not need to be imported from far away. And because so many people need to work on it, local village gets to have jobs, they have income. This is important for another part of sustainability, the social and economic, right? It's not just ecological, but people who live in villages who otherwise would immigrate to cities or abroad to make money, they need sources of income. So this training center is now operating, and we have a room where we can have events with up to 40 people. We host visitors. We organize different programs of ours, but also we try to make it as a social enterprise. It needs to be economically sustainable to cover its own costs. So sometimes also other clients come and rent the space. And this is a source of workplaces for about 6 people in the village, but also we purchase food from the village to feed our visitors. We use a lot of locals as hosts to accommodate our groups. So if groups of 25 stay overnight, then we host some of them in our training center, but some of them go and sleep in people's houses so they can also get some income generation. And of course, for the village, it was like, ooh, eco stuff, weird. Why are those people building something out of clay like our grandmas? This is not modern. But gradually they started accepting it and seeing the benefits and realizing. And now the most encouraging for me is that people start replicating our processes and come for advice and also want to do it. Of course, we're also trying to twist people's minds with an alternative approach to agriculture. It's not all bare soil with black, nicely lined up carrots, but it's permaculture approach. It's organic agriculture, restorative agriculture. And yeah, some people laugh about us for leaving a lot of weird plants to grow there, but we explain that this is a combination, this is an ecosystem. And gradually also more and more people in the village and also others who come to use the training center from the entire country and abroad, they observe how these practices are working. And we have harvest and we have healthy soil. And after 4 years of doing this type of agriculture, we have really improved the quality of the soil. Now it's much easier to cultivate. And of course, we don't use any chemical fertilizers or pesticides. It's a healthy system for itself. And another approach that we use, because it's very connected to, so you come to a place, you learn about climate change, you learn about energy, you learn about all sorts of topics. And people also come and do, peacemaking seminars there, but then they have to eat, right? Food is important. So we use it as a tool for environmental education because they're right here, they're hungry participants, and we do not serve meat in our training center. Not at all. This is a vegan-vegetarian training center. We don't call it this way. We say we just come to a place and you get food. But then meat is missing. And some people are like, what? Where's my meat? But what we're trying is to raise awareness about the effects of animal agriculture. And it's very important in terms of climate change. You see all these crazy pictures. I'm not even talking about ethics of animal life and pity to animals. This is a topic aside. If we just speak from the perspective of climate change, animal agriculture is huge. It's affecting our earth systems a lot. Here is some statistics, which I'm not going to read out loud. You can check it out. There is a big impact on earth total land, greenhouse gas emissions, freshwater use, just to grow these huge quantities of cattle and animals that need to be fed with some GMO grown soy or corn, right? You see they don't see any grass. There's not enough territory on the entire planet to supply these animals with enough like grasslands so that they can have a normal animal natural life so that we can keep up the level of meat that we're used to in our lives. So in our training center, we propose not to blame those who eat meat, but we say, look, it's your personal choice. We absolutely respect anyone. Even I might eat meat once or twice a year for holidays. But what we want you is to try what other beautiful, delicious things can be made out of plant-based products. And we want to teach you how to cook. So we want to involve you in this. We want to show you the diversity and the beauty of the plant-based food. And then if you were eating meat 7 times a week and then you reduce to 5 times a week, great. You already did a big influence on the planet, right? And you don't have to give up your steak forever. So just a reduction is already something. And of course, this quite gets some hearts. If we talk about it just theoretically, people are like, oh, you're aggressing, it's inviting, and it's not guilt-making, so constrained. So I will stop here with my slides because I could talk for ages, but these are just a few things that I think are core to our lives. It's how we live, how we grow food, how we consume, that can be have a great influence on individual level and also economies on a big scale. And that's what we're trying to demonstrate.
Thank you, Valeria. You inspired me a lot. I need to visit Rishkova. So in 2 weeks, I will be in Moldova and will pay a visit to Rishkova Training Center. Oh, wonderful, actually. So let me share with you the screen and to show to everyone that we had 6 actually inputs from the participants, and the majority think that environmental sustainability is life, actually, is the right keyword. It's life, it's awareness, it's protecting nature, it's our future. Environmental protection is about also about limit of growth, care, and respect. So again, to our speakers, and this time back to Nelia, to Russia. Nelia, what would you see as a role of the citizen and citizenship education? Because you already started to say something about this particular topic, but now it's the time to go deeper and to see how the citizenship education can play a bigger role in action against climate change. Maybe you have some examples from Russia, from your professional experience. Please share it with us.
Yeah, it's maybe not like exactly examples from Russia, but just my thoughts mainly. I mean, first of all, of course, I agree with what Natalie said and Valeria in terms of that, yes, we need to explain people that small actions, they are important, because in mass, if we all, I don't know, refuse to eat meat every day, or if we, I don't know, decide to give up our personal car and go by bike instead for short distances, this makes much big influence and makes difference. But at the same time, when I was talking about a systemic change, I meant that unfortunately there are people and corporations and governments that have other interests. They think in short terms, sometimes like in election terms, and this is what where I think education should go and actually try to explain people. And because I mean, I just try to explain that, for example, in Russia, I can see that it's really right now popular. I mean, still in some particular segment of population, but it's a really popular topic in terms of environmental lifestyle and like give up plastic bags and so on and so forth. But not many people still go to the next level. And I think next level, it's actually when you start to act as a citizen, when you actually understand that you have, I don't know, a right for voting, or for a right for asking for action. I mean, this is what Greta does, of course, in Sweden, and the whole world is basically now following her, at least in that countries where it's allowed, because in Russia it's really complicated. But yeah, I think that it's really important that we don't just stop on these things, because I also have seen research, at least I would, for some reasons, I didn't save it for myself because now I cannot find it. But there was also such evidence that people who actually make the small things, there is a high percentage that they are not ready for larger, bigger changes, that they actually don't want, I don't know, to that in their village there is a wind plant area or something. They say, no, I give up my stake and I contribute it, and that's it from me, you know. So, but this is not enough. And I think it's really important that education is actually, and especially citizen education, and you know, there is such term global citizenship, and this is actually what we need to explain to people, that we are all interconnected, that yes, we can do small things, but right now, because we're in climate emergency, we actually need to really be active citizens and vote correctly or try to promote some climate action, questioning corporations that are located in your region or city. I myself worked once in oil and gas industries, and I left the industry just because already that time, it was like 10 years ago, that time I thought, no, I don't want to be part of it. I mean, I understood already that time that this extra income I get, on which costs I get it. And if we all start to ask ourselves, like, we get this money, from where do we get it? How we get it? How climate neutral they are? So, and this is, I think, what is important to understand, that small actions, yes, bigger thinking also, yes. And this is where education and civil society contribution is really important, that civil society actually can mainstream these ideas, the thoughts that we need to change our way of thinking in general. Thank you.
Yes, exactly. Think globally, act locally. This is like we are saying in Sweden here, global sustainable agenda. Yeah. Okay, thank you, Nela. Wonderful examples on your personal, devote to the sustainable development. You left oil energy industry. Yeah, it's terrifying. Good. So now let's go deeper to Natalie. Natalie, what else can we do as an individual to support ecosystem and environmental sustainability? I'm sure you have a lot of tips for everyone here, starting from your experience, but also with your expertise.
Yeah. No, I think, thank you, Nelia, for what you said. I think it's really important that we realize that not just what we do with the extra money, because we normally get more money, so we can spend it on a new phone, on new clothes, on new travels far away with probably airplanes. And so it's not just about not having the money, it's also what we do with it, and also what life quality does it add? Does it add quality? And most people, I think, have realized, and we see a change, a shift among certain groups in Sweden. I wouldn't say we're big enough to be a movement, but you see families who work 8-10 hours. They don't see their children growing up. They earn all this money to buy this new stuff. For what price? And so you see people wanting to work less, maybe take more vacation days or more parental leave days. I have a few friends close to me who one parent is working, because you need a paid job to pay taxes, electricity, internet, those kind of things. But the other person is doing something different. They might do gardening, they might move out of the city. So we see this trend that has been going on for a long time about urbanization to really go back. And for it was also interesting with Valeria's example of, keeping people, making more people work and to get money for that and less money for the things we do. And we see this in a variety of things here. We see fancy secondhand stores. Secondhand store previously was for people with financial difficulties. It was different organizations receiving, either selling them here and using the money for projects abroad or development or supporting weaker families with weak economies, which now we see in the middle of cities, not far out with low rent, but fancy stores selling, really fancy one-time use by someone who has all of this money and works these fancy jobs. He uses a dress once. Actually, this jacket I brought from these stores, a really, really fancy job jacket, just because I don't want to contribute to that industry, because it's one thing about what we do with the extra money. So we need it, adds life quality, but also the other question, who pays the price for my cheap stuff, whether that is food, whether that is meat, whether that is clothing or technology. Someone else, somewhere else pays for the price, both in human suffering and in climate. we see when it comes to cotton, lakes and rivers being dried out. They are affecting the whole ecosystem, and in the end, it's gonna affect the entire world because we are connected. You talked about earlier, we might end up in conflict or war, and that is also something that we see when it comes to people fighting over minerals, over natural resources that are scarce. So we really need to look into, besides the systemic change, what can I do? What can I change in my daily life that doesn't cost too much of planning, of doing things? I mentioned the water bottle, bringing your own cutlery, buying stuff secondhand, changing. We have not now because we cannot meet, but before we had at least twice every semester at universities or schools or some kind of hubs, like innovation hubs or something where a lot of people meet. We had clothes changing days. You bring 3 items, you get 3 items. You bring 10 items, you bring home 10 items. So you get them in there. So they have a box maybe a week before. You get a ticket where it says you bought 5 clothes. And then on the day for 4 or 5 hours, they've hanged it nicely, different color, different sizes. Some organization contribute with the space, and you go there and you get new stuff. For you, it's new. You get fancy dress for maybe the wedding, or you grow out of the pants that are actually new, or whatever reason, and you finally get new clothes for you, but they're not new. We also see, and Viorica mentioned that initially I work as a consultant for Skydresande, which means fair traveling. And it's an organization that works to promote sustainable travel. And I think that is also important because I want to see a shift from physical stuff to more of experiences. We see people giving each other for birthdays or Christmas a concert ticket or a guided tour in a natural reserve rather than a thing as a gift. And tourism is an important part of that, both because it brings us a bit closer most of the time to nature, and it generates financial benefits for the people in the area. And normally it also makes rural areas, they keep alive, because then there are stores, there are transport for the people who live there, because a lot of people travel there. So we really see this shift in traveling more sustainable. We actually have a word here, which is semester, which is like home vacation, and they just put them together. So we see in all parts of life, we can really see how we can make these small changes. We need systemic change, but we also need to start getting people engaged and do things halfway. Like mentioned before, we don't stop eating meat maybe, but a few times a week. We maybe buy our 1 pair of shoes a year new, but all the other clothes, we can buy them secondhand. We travel and we continue to experience stuff and do cool things, but we do them maybe closer, we do them slower. Traveling by train, making the transport part of the experience. And so you can really look into your life and see, where can I do these changes? It doesn't cost anything for my life quality. I mean, I'll still do amazing trips. I still love traveling, but I do them in a more sustainable way. I do maybe longer times. I travel further, but by train, by bike. I discover new areas, both close in our own country, now that the lockdowns between countries have made it difficult. We discovered north of Sweden last year by train and by foot. We've been biking in the spring. And so really, really see, where can I make changes? And also when we do that, we request things. When we go to restaurants and ask for vegetarian food, when we travel more by train, there will be more trains. So really see, where can we do and start impacting, because even though civil society is important and key, we need private sector to change. They have the money, they are the ones offering things. So I can't make my individual choice if they don't exist. So we really need to make that shift and start being annoying and ask questions, even if we might not even eat at the restaurant. I go in the different restaurants. Oh, you don't have vegetarian? Sorry, I'll go. Even though I wasn't even hungry, I might go into 3 restaurants and ask that. When I travel, I call different hotels or hostels and ask, do you have, you clean your sheets sustainably? Do you have a vegetarian breakfast? And so on. And if they say no, I said, oh, okay, I'm sorry, I'm not going to stay with you, even though I might already reserved another one, just to get this started, because we need private sector to take responsibility and offer more things that are sustainable. So the individual doesn't have to take or make the decision.
Yes, yes, great. You are an amazing example of an active citizen. So, and here in Sweden, I know there is a lot of training to school, to students and to general publics, speaking about the nature and the environment and the sustainability. So great, amazing. And thank you for sharing such good tips for everyone here. I'm wondering if Valeria is with us because she's not with video, but yeah, I would invite Valeria now, if she is with us at the moment, to turn on the camera. So I will be sure that I can ask her an interesting question about her experience. But if she's not with us, then let's continue our meditation. Why actually?
With you. I'm with you.
Okay. Okay, good. Okay, Valeria. So yeah. So because you
I'm turning
inspired
off
us.
the camera because it's more ecological to
More
stream
sustainable.
less.
Yeah. Good.
Yes, exactly. And then I had like 10 windows open and clicking, where's my microphone to turn it back on? So
yeah, good, Valeria. So you showed us great examples, good pictures of your environmental training center, and you are working with a lot of beneficiary target groups there. Which educational and engagement methods would you suggest as most effective for young people, since here EENCE is also working with this target group, young people? So from your experience, what can you suggest to others here in the event?
Yes. So, of course, we've tried a lot of engagement programs, and I can share a few. Many of us are trainers in non-formal education, and we try to use very diverse tools, how to make education fun and interactive. And we use climate simulation games, like maybe Keep Cool, maybe you've heard of it. You're welcome all to use it. We also published it online. It's a game where you learn about how climate change is happening and which effects does it bring, and it's bringing an economy. Like you can see those, you can play it on a table and you can play it online. We have published a lot of those boxes, so we've sent them also in different countries. So if in your network somebody is interested in this game, we're happy to share it. It's not just educational, it's also fun. You also enjoy the game process. You play America, Russia, China, OPEC countries, and you make decisions about energy situation in the world. And this is how people get more aware about the connection between economy and climate change. But of course, besides games, there are many other tools that can be used, seminars, trainings, but the more practical, the better, right? Something about energy efficiency, where young people can learn how to really measure it, not just to talk that it's important, but with their own hands, go and touch it and do it. And of course, involving young people into being ambassadors. This is what we try most. We try to find most promising, motivated young people and help them develop their own ideas. So we do the citizenship education. We microfinance their projects so that they take responsibility and do something. And of course, we help out with the whole network of coaches, of ecosystem support, and so on. Young people like a lot, they like movement, they like being active in the city, and it's kind of cool, promoting bicycle culture. That's what we try to do now even more. It's becoming quite popular in Moldova, especially in the cities. And we do educational events, but also critical mass. And we try also to influence, together with a group of active young people, to influence some local mayor's office to take better decisions on the city infrastructure. But all these educational events are nice and fun, but to make it more sustainable, young people are also interested in their own economic sustainability. So if you can connect environmental education with business, then this is probably the most powerful. And this is what we try to do. Like, we talk about biking and we promote it, but then we also like this is with another organization I'm part of, Catalyst, we started offering ecological delivery service. It's also a social enterprise, right? And we involve young people into being bike couriers. So they first learn about how cool it is to promote bike culture, but then you could also get a job in it. You could also earn a little bit of money and deliver ecological products to other people by bikes, right? And this keeps young people's attention a lot. Also, food business, right? With Catalyst has started renovating an old pig farm, and we're on the way to get to a professional kitchen. Where is it? Where's my picture? Here. Yeah, we're making a shared kitchen where people could have their own startups develop, where they're going to be little entrepreneurs who don't have a possibility to take big credits for their own factories, but they can come and make innovative products here. And especially we make emphasis on ecological, local, vegan, vegetarian, less packaging, so sustainable products, right? So young people, they need entrepreneurial opportunities. And of course, we try to kind of tickle this out of them. We organize different competitions for green business ideas. And all these tools we're trying, I cannot tell you that entrepreneurship is easy. Out of 50 people who go through these programs, maybe only 1 or 2 really do a real functioning, alive enterprise that brings them income. But all the others, they at least, they get exposed to these ideas, and then they also start changing something in their lifestyle, and they become more conscious customers because they understand better what choices they can make in their lives. So for youth, I would wrap up that my recommendation is to use a variety of engagement methods, from gaming to ambassador making to practical stuff, but also entrepreneurship, so that they can see their own future interest in it.
Brilliant examples. Good to know that so many things are happening in Chisinau. So I left Moldova 3 years ago, and it seems so much happening meantime. So I need to visit definitely and to join all these activities. Brilliant examples, girls. So Natalie, Nelly, Valeria, thank you very, very much. So now we achieved that moment when we are opened for the questions from the public, and we received a good question, actually. So since we understand that, and it is crystal clear that the environmental sustainability is very important to you personally and professionally. So the question is, what actually are the most difficult challenges you as eco-activist faced in your work? So you can reflect based on what you personally experienced, or maybe you know, or maybe you know from other colleagues or from other researchers. So what are the most the biggest difficulties and challenges in your work? So please, the question is for all you three.
Yeah, I maybe can start. I think for us, of course, the most complicated is to work with the government, because I can tell you that just recent events, Russian Federation on the last Forum on Sustainable Development basically declined to support points of the Declaration on Climate Action and Biodiversity. It was the only country in the entire world who basically said, no, we don't support these 2 points. And it was also gender equality, which is another topic. So yeah, and it's really complicated. We see that more and more environmental activists are also suppressed by the government in Russia. In general, civil society is under pressure, and of course we still can do the small things, and but we have so much like pressure coming from different directions. It's the same about, for example, even informal education. Soon we are more or less not allowed to have informal education, which like without governmental license. And we observe basically the same in Belarus. We just experienced that several our partners' organizations were completely closed. Environmental organizations. I'm not talking about human rights right now. Yeah, I think it's really complicated. It's really hard, and unfortunately, yeah, it's really not clear what we can do right now about it, because of course when we see also that we need to fight big corporations or something to prevent them, I don't know, cutting forest, or just tell them like, what have you done with this oil spill? It's not easy, unfortunately. Yeah, this is the situation right now in our countries.
Yes, it's depressing, unfortunately. Yeah.
Definitely, and this is a global issue. I work at the international development organizations, and both human rights activists, but also people who defend, a river or mountain or water, especially indigenous people, social leaders get killed or put in jail for crimes that don't exist. And you probably all have seen this. Like, how can it be illegal to defend or demonstrate to protect your water or your soil, but not the corporates to destroy it? And so I think that another thing that I individually as a person find it difficult is the criticism, both from maybe friends or colleagues a bit further out in the line, who says, yeah, okay, good, you do this water bottle and your bamboo and you go by train, but what about your phone? What about you still use electricity? Or this criticism on the things you don't do. And I really like what Valera said about this is how good food can be when it's vegetarian. Do what you want with it. And I really think we need to get away from this, you don't do this, you don't do that, and to encourage the good things we do and try to make more small good changes in our lives, rather than criticizing. Okay, you do eat, so I don't eat meat since very many years, but then I get criticized for loving cheese, or the one time I had to fly because my grandma got sick, or whatever the reason might be, and people really take on that rather than seeing and trying to encourage each other, because that makes you, for people who are not super engaged, it's difficult because they know they will never be perfect. They will take that one takeaway cup one way or whatever it might be. So we need to encourage the good deeds and stop criticizing. I really think the things we do, because people will continue fly, use single plastic, but we really need to focus on the positive part of it, both as individuals and also companies and organizations. My organizations does a lot of good, and it gets criticized for the few flights globally we do, which we need to do, because if people need to meet, talk, we need to hear each other's experience. And I think that is really important to meet. And there is still no good way to pass the Atlantic, for example, unless you fly. And so, that's a challenge.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, we cannot stop technical development progress, but we can be sure and assure ourselves that we harm as little as it is possible, at least for the moment. Yes, and let's produce more innovative and let's inspire more innovative young people to think about how to do that. Would you like also, Valeria, to say something about your challenges, please?
Yes, I think I want to relate my challenges to this book that I was reading, and I definitely want to recommend it. It's pretty famous in climate activist circles. Charles Eisenstein, Climate, a New Story. And why I like it so much, it's because it's a very refreshing view. The challenge that he has very well put in words, so I can understand, is this war mentality, both on the side of climate polluters and exploitators of the planet, and on the side of environmental activists, which is, Natalie, you brought me also to this thinking that we're fighting climate change, we're fighting those corporations, we're fighting meat eaters, and we're fighting each other. And our society is already polarized enough. You can see what's happening in elections all over the place. So this fighting and trying so hard. And I think this book really puts it brilliantly that we need to go beyond that. And the challenge is to do less, not to do more environmental, cool, crazy solutions of, I don't know, something that will suck out CO2 from the air and this will save us. The challenge is to just do less, not with this, let's say, ascetics life and sacrificing all, but rethink, what do we really need? What are our real priorities? Because we all, in the end, we need love, we need good relationships, we need good food, we need nice life, right? It doesn't need so much complexity as we're spinning it. So yeah, I recommend to read this book and get some.
Thank you.
insight.
Thank you for these wonderful recommendations. It's a good tips for after this panel discussion. So we have the second question for you. What are actually the key differences in your approaches working with different target groups, for instance, rural, urban areas? Valera said already something about working with young people, but other than that, with urban, rural population from your examples. So, Valera, you can start if you have something in mind, or Natalie can say, or Nelia. So the open question for you.
Nelia, go ahead if you want. Otherwise, I will take the floor.
I mean, I can reply in terms of not, of course, urban, rural. I think have much experience in this, but sometimes I work with corporations. I mean, they invite us to speak, or business people, and actually want to go to them less and less because yeah, it's. I still think that they do more like SDG washing than real stuff. But of course, we need to still talk to them, and we need to explain them our positions. And the same with the government. I mean, we, with all the stress we have, I still in Russia communicate with the with the Ministry of Economic Development, or with the advisor of the president on SDGs. We still like communicate, and I try to explain like our positions and stuff like that. It's of course different language and different expressions, and of course you need to be able still to deliver your positions, but just in a friendly way, that you don't get into these fights. But I want to say about fights, I just wanted to add on that what Valeria said, because I think I personally more on the fighter's side, because I think we are in emergency situation, and there is always a big percentage of population who don't care, and another who will oppose it, because they are not going to give up, I don't know, their golden toilets or whatever they have there. And if we just sit and say like, oh, we want peace and love and stuff. I'm also like in this hippie mood sometimes, but I think it's really sometimes important to get up and fight. And for example, for me, what Greta does, she fights. This is a fight for me. She tells openly with the hard words, like clear words, real words, what is happening. Because I can tell you that I'm right now teaching a course also within the United Nations system, and they refuse to include her videos to the course, because for them this is really hard language. And for me, it's like, no, it's not a hard language, and I'm more there like from civil society side and trying to make it more that articulations are harder, in these terms, that people understand that we are really in emergency, and this is that's why I think that yes, we need to use different language. But these discussions on climate are happening already. How many years? 30? And like, what is the outcome? They still cannot agree on anything. So, yeah.
Thank you, Nella. And a very short question with yes or no. We received a question actually to you. Does Russia face any difficulties in receiving EU budget, EU grants in dealing with the environment and ecosystem? Just say yes or no. Without
Of course, we have a foreign law. Unfortunately, we have a foreign law agent law, and you basically, if you're an NGO and you receive this money, you are doomed, basically.
Yeah, unfortunately. So back to Valeria and Natalie about the different approaches. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I can just add to that. I think it's important, like, how can we still discuss whether or not it's climate change? Oh, it's getting colder in some places. Oh, it wasn't that hot this summer. Climate changes every now and then, and still people put time on that instead of like, okay, can we just agree that even if climate change is not true, can we still change? Like, we can still improve the way we do stuff, be more efficient, save water, turn off the lights, or whatever systemic change we need. We can still do that even if we don't think climate change is happening. I think that is also something that can please involve the people who do not believe climate change is real. When it comes to urban and rural, I think it's important to see, and this is something I've experienced in settings all over the world, when you're in this family in the countryside, you've been walking for hours, and they serve meat because that's a fancy thing when they have guests, and you try to, that's not the place to take the conversation about meat is not good, don't be part of the industry, because they have their own animals, they are part of the, keeping the fields open, they carry their food, their transport. Or if you go to a really rural area, even in Sweden, where most people there have blue collar jobs, they might have financial systems, they don't have the luxury that cities have, and they might have to go 30, 40, 50 kilometers to get milk. And so telling them, hey, bike, leave your car, get a electrical car, or even tell them to not travel by flight to Thailand when they have, like, their favorite place to go is maybe a bigger city. And so I also think it's important for especially civil society trainers working with these communities to really see the differences. And I find this sometimes difficult among colleagues who grow up and lived in urban, whether it's cities or close to cities, who have everything and don't have this daily struggle of transport. And so to see this difference, and even in Sweden, we have those huge differences where some people in the countryside have never been on an airplane. And then I go out with my standard course and say, hey, we should fly less. This is how you can think when you travel. When they, the parents have 2 or 3 jobs, there's a big ethnic mix, and so on. So we really need to be also sensitive about what people need to do these changes. You cannot force to lower, whether that is in Southern Africa, in Haiti or Guatemala or Sweden, to take away, basic human rights. It's the richer population that needs to take those decisions to make those changes.
Thank you, Natalie. So I see we have less than 5 minutes, and let's give the floor to Valeria just to say a few things about different approaches in working. And we will finish soon with takeaways, but for the public, please go to the link and contribute to our poll. The second question, what are your takeaways from this panel discussion? And we will summarize soon this event. Valeria, you can do it as a takeaways also.
Well, I'll try. I'll take 2 minutes, but I still share a picture. I want to show you the difference in approaches in rural and urban target groups we work with. I think we always need to really see what's their pain, what's these people's necessity. And if I live in a village and I work with these people, and they care about agriculture and they care about economic sustainability, right? They don't want to go abroad, they want to earn a little bit money here. So I'm thinking, how can I twist this to be more ecological? I'm not talking to them that much about get a fair phone or use a replacement bottle, not to these people. I can talk about this to city people, but to rural population, we talk about adaptations in agriculture, how to mulch, how to collect water, rainwater, how to prepare to adapt to climate changes, and how to even reduce climate change by carbon sequestration in the soil, right? And then how can these people grow their stuff ecologically? How can I help them? What I can help, what we did last year, we started the system of community supported agriculture, like small farmers who have like 10 Rs near their house, and they rely on this because their pension is only 50 euros per month. So they can grow stuff and sell, and it's hard to go to the market without transportation. So we collect it all from them, we bring it to Chisinau, and we send it over to urban clients. And urban population gets access to organic, locally grown food without long chains of delivery. And this is a connection between these two target groups. Rural population feels appreciated, they get good prices, they learn how to grow organic and how to adapt. And urban population gets to learn how to cook vegan, vegetarian stuff and eat locally, because this is one of the biggest impacts you can have. And that's why we very much need, like in entrepreneurship, you address the needs of the client. The same as when climate education, you need to address the needs of that target group and see what's their pain and help them solve it through ecological means.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you so much. And thank you for those who actually participate to our pool. And there is a few takeaways from our public. Small and bigger actions needed, to protect and to tackle climate change. More behavior awareness after this panel discussion. And there is many ways to fight climate discussion. And this is true. What other takeaways have our speakers? So Natalie, 20 seconds.
Thank you. This was a great discussion. I've learned so much from all of you who participated. And the takeaway is really, we need to make small actions in our own life, but we need to involve private sectors and make sure that systemic change can happen. And we need it now, or rather yesterday. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Delia.
Yeah, for me, it was really interesting to see what Valeria is actually doing, because it's real practice. This is what is happening in reality, what you can do by hand. So thank you very much for that. And it was interesting to discuss it with you and also to deliver my point about governments and politics.
Thank you, Valeria.
And I want to say that although I said all this stuff about fight and be more peaceful, but I appreciate the work of all the fighters. I appreciate Greta Thunberg. I don't go myself to fight governments. I work more grassroots and practical stuff, but I definitely send good thoughts out there. And my takeaway is that we need a diversity of approaches. So people with different qualities and different talents can put these talents into action so we can change the world together.
Exactly. Thank you so much. The world together, changing the world together. Thank you, brilliant speakers, Nelia, Natalie, Valeria, and thank you to Narine that organized all this event. Narine, so maybe you can say a few words at the end of this panel, please.
Thank you, dear panelists and moderator, for the insightful panel discussion. I have some food for mind and takeouts. I will read it, make some notes. I really appreciate and like the delicious concept of the wedding cake that Natalie has presented. Yes, and I agree that we can't build anything if we don't have the ground of ecosystem, the background and the grassroots, and the ground is very important. All 17 goals are interconnected. I'm happy that all the panelists bring into the center this idea. Natalie also mentioned that we learn every day and there is always a room for improvement. And I fall in love with the eco-friendly house that Valeria has presented. Now I know for sure where I will live when I come to the country called Moldova. The sustainability model you have demonstrated, dear Valeria, is really inspiring. And I know that it is in Rishkova. So Rishkova is in the list that I will be with definitely. Nelia, thank you about thinking the small actions and bringing into the center that small actions are as important as the big actions, and the research about the larger and smaller challenges. It's really challenging. I need to go and read about this research. And you talk about the citizenship education and global citizenship education and its importance, its role in the emergency situation. Yeah, we all need to speak about the emergency situation now we live in. Thank you to bringing into the center the sustainability travel concept. Frankly speaking, I don't know too much about it, but it's a food for mind to know what concept it is, sustainability travel. And the climate simulation game is pretty much interesting. And I think, dear Viorica, in our EENCE working group on ecosystem, we need to use this simulation game within our
Absolutely.
members.
Sure.
Thank you all for an insightful and meaningful panel discussion. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you so much. So today we had 3 guest speakers that shared with us their genuine grassroots experience from Sweden, Russia, and Moldova. And I realized that there is diverse vision, various resources, multiple tools, polyvalent competencies, and great goals in our way to protect ecosystem and to make everything to benefit from our sustainable present and the sustainable present, sustainable for the future generation. So sustainability for future as well. It's not an easy task, but gradually with little changes in daily routine, we can achieve bigger impact. The greatest ideas are the simplest. Thank you, everyone, and enjoy the rest of the weekend in a sustainable way. See you next time on EENCE Club and also on our website, on Facebook and on our LinkedIn profile. Have a nice summer time. Bye-bye.